ليعذب الله المنافقين والمنافقات والمشركين والمشركات ليعذب الله المنافقين والمنافقات والمشركين والمشركات ويتوب الله على المؤمنين والمؤمنات وكان الله غفورا رحيما وكان الله غفورا رحيما ليعذب الله المنافقين والمنافقات والمشركين والمشركات ويتوب الله على المؤمنين والمؤمنات وكان الله غفورا رحيما.
So I've had like a ton of people ask me in the last like 2 or 3 weeks, what do you guys do for water in the wintertime? And how do you keep your water from freezing? So I thought, since I need to run water today anyways, I'd bring you along and let you see how we do it. Basically, it's the same as in the summertime. This generator here powers our well, and we have holding tanks which we fill up, and then the water is gravity fed into different areas that we need it. We've got I think it's 60-gallon tank in the house, and then there's a 375-gallon tank in the barn, and other than that, we fill up the livestock troughs, all the livestock troughs, with water, just like we did in the summer. And of course they freeze when it gets cold, but what happens is they don't freeze solid. Usually it freezes across the top and around the sides. And in the center there's always a pocket of water. So every day we chop a small hole in the ice, and that allows the animals to get a drink. And then once they've drank all the water out of the center, then we break the ice out and refill the tank. And as for the tank in the barn, we've got a kerosene. We use kerosene lamps to heat that. And then obviously the tank in the house is never cold because we heat with wood. So a decent day out today. So we are going to be running water. We'll start with the holding tank in the barn. Normally this is what fills the holding tank, but as you see, it's got icicles hanging off it, so that's not an option. So I decided to run the water hose and just fill it back up. Can't really see in there too much, but this thing holds 375 gallons, and this will be our backup water source. While that is filling up, I'm going to go out here and knock the ice out of the horse water tank. It looks like we got about that much water in there. And I think the stick is about that much too long. So I think that's as far as I'm going to fill it up, because if it freezes, it'll obviously make the tank explode and everything, crack the tank. So in the wintertime, I don't fill them up all the way. I leave room for expansion. That's something important to keep in mind if you're doing this type of a setup. I'll show you a little bit more about this in a minute here. But first, let's take that hose out and put it in the horse tank. So this is how I keep my water from freezing. I have this box which is made out of insulation. I've kind of got it wrapped with insulation to help, because when it gets like below 20 degrees, it'll still freeze if I don't have this extra piece of insulation wrapped around here. But essentially, what you have to do to get water, open that. I have a lantern in here, and that's the hydrant there. And that lantern sitting there keeps this area warm enough that it doesn't freeze. It does still get ice on it, but mostly it doesn't freeze. And sometimes when the water gets real low, like maybe just about there, you'll just have a chunk of ice in there, and then I'll fill it up with water again, and the ice, whatever little chunk, will float up to the top, and then it'll fill up with water again. But basically that's how I keep it from freezing, and for the most part it works pretty good, actually. Sometimes when it's going to be like below zero, I'll light both of these lanterns in there just to make sure there's enough heat. But for the most part, one of them will do, as long as it's, 15 or above, I'm guessing. Well, as you can see, it's sunset pretty much, and I'm just finishing up with running water. I've been running it all afternoon, so heading back here to the well to turn off the generator, and we should have water now for it's a good 2 weeks anyways, maybe a little more if we're careful with it. It's definitely a lot harder to live this lifestyle off grid the way we do it anyways in the winter time. So it's definitely something that you have to keep in mind if you want to do this. There's so many people I've met that have come and visited the farm or whatever and talk about how they'd love to do it, but the first day you got freezing water, they're ready to quit. So there's always an upside and a downside to everything you do in life, and you have to decide whether or not you can handle the downside. This is one of the downsides of living off the land. The way we do it is that, you got to run water when it's freezing cold and try to keep your hands from freezing and keep your hydrant from freezing. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not something that is just haphazard that you can just jump into. It's something that takes experience, in some cases a lifetime of experience. And as a person who is coming from the city life or the modern lifestyle, jumping into it, your best bet is to take the experience of someone who has been doing it for a while and not always try to forge your own way. I think the biggest mistake that people make is they come and they don't see the system behind it. They romanticize the lifestyle. It's so neat, little house on the prairie, blah blah blah, and they don't realize that the thing that keeps the ball rolling is the system behind it. It's a lot more to it than what it looks like on the surface. And it's food for thought. Why not take the advice and follow the example of those who are already doing it rather than trying to forge your own way? And that's it for the water today. Until next time.
Zucchini and onions with butter, seasonings. And this is venison back strip layered over potatoes and bell pepper and onion, topped with little carrots and butter.
Another important step, which I can't leave out, is that, especially in the wintertime, it's very important to drain your hose. Obviously, this is probably seem like maybe common sense, but if you never did it before, maybe you wouldn't think of it. But you cannot, as soon as you get done running the water, you need to drain that hose, because that hose is going to freeze. And if I got it stretched out from this hydrant all the way to the goat pen, it's going to freeze in a straight line, and I'll never be able to roll it back up without breaking it. And like I said in the beginning, the first step to running water is I got to bring that hose inside and let it unfreeze. So if it freezes out in a straight line, I'll never get it inside, and I guess I just have to go buy a new hose every time I wanted to run water. But these are some things that they seem small, but in the grand scheme of things are very important steps. And I notice lately a lot of people that I've met that are interested in living off-grid, these are the type of steps that they, take for granted. Like, they feel like, they don't understand the routine of it. And this is why having a routine is important. You have to remember every time, and this is something you can't forget. You can't forget to roll up the hose after you've used it. In the summertime, no big deal, but in the wintertime, stuff like this you cannot forget. That's why you have to have a routine when you're doing this type of lifestyle, I guess. And another thing, coming from like a more, modern lifestyle, there's a bit of a conflict, which I think makes it hard for people to switch over, and that is learning to wait. Because in the modern lifestyle, everything has to be right now. Right now you don't wait for anything. You go to fast food, everything is fast. You want to go somewhere, you get on the highway and go as fast as you can. Nothing is about waiting. And sometimes you keep this lifestyle, so you can't rush into it like that. Like, you have to plan everything out, and even when you plan, still sometimes your plans fail. So planning is really the key, and you have to be able to be patient and wait for the right opportunity. And I've heard of people that they decided, well, let's go live off the grid. We'll milk a cow. We'll have cow's milk. And they went to the auction, and there was this milk cow that was going dirt cheap, like a third of what they would normally bring. Maybe $500. Normally they're like $1,500 to $2,000. They found a really good one for $500, and they brought it home. And so now they don't have anywhere to milk it. They don't have a fence for it. They don't have a pen for it. So now they got it tied to a tree, and they're milking the cow tied to a tree out under the hot sun. And so really, that's just an example of why it's better to make plans, get a routine, and then stick to it. And really, once you have the routine down, it doesn't seem so overwhelming. Like I was saying, a couple people were asking, like, how do we deal with water in this time of year? And this is basically it, how we do it. The same as the summer, we got our holding tanks, we keep them full, and we keep heat on the one in the barn, and the other ones we have to break the ice and refill them periodically. And that's basically how we do it. And it really doesn't seem too hard to me, because like I say, once you get your routine down, it's just, this is a part of life. This is what you do. If you're going to run water, you got to go through these certain steps, and you just plan for it. You know, today we're going to run water, or you plan for it tomorrow. Obviously, you can't do it at the drop of a hat, maybe. But you see you need to run water, then you plan for tomorrow, we're going to run water, and you follow these steps. And once you have your routine down, it becomes simpler. But without a routine, it's just chaos, and you would wear yourself out. Like you'd have so much to do, and everything is going to be going wrong at once. So, you know, the routine is what is key. Without the routine, and if you've never grown up in a routine, then, you know, it's going to be hard to formulate. But that's just my opinion on it, and some thoughts I've had with some of the people I've met recently that were interested in living off-grid, but, you know, you almost have to divorce one lifestyle and jump into the other. So just food for thought. I'd love to hear comments from anybody, what you think about this. So this is going to be a barn for the goats when we get it finished. I haven't really worked on it much since last fall. Sort of just a winter project. Just been too busy this summer or last summer rather, to get it finished. I got a couple windows hung, and I'm using this stuff right here. This is fiberglass, and it lets light in pretty good. So I'm going to put a couple strips of that in the back wall to kind of help with light. And I don't really have the money to finish the whole thing material wise, but I've been saving up some of those pallet slats, so I'm going to at least try to wall in, get the walls in, and then I have to save up some money to get trusses for the roof. But for now, since it's just a gloomy, boring winter day, I thought I would work out here on this a little bit.